U.S. Border Patrol agents have until November 1st to get vaccinated or apparently get fired. That is not sitting well with Republicans who say the Biden administration would rather crack down on law enforcement instead of illegal immigrants crossing our own border. And we know that for sure because they're not being tested. Meanwhile, Florida is suing the administration, accusing the Biden administration of violating its authority, if not breaking the law, with its catch and release policy, which it has reinstituted. The lawsuit comes after CBP encountered more than 200,000 migrants at the southern border in August alone, on top of 200,000 in July. We're talking about 1.5 million migrants have entered the country and have been apprehended the year to date. Joining me right now is Jackson County, Texas Sheriff A.J. Louderback. Sheriff A.J., great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. Assess the situation for us. What does it look like today on the ground in your county?
Well, you know, it's no surprise that the Biden administration would take a shot at law enforcement. That fits the standard narrative that we've come to know. And of course, you make a great point about the fact that tens of thousands of illegal aliens have come across, hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens have come across that have not tested. Of course, as we experience higher COVID levels here in Texas and in our Texas jails because of that, we have the same issue going on with the Biden administration. So, not surprised at all.
So to be clear, you think that COVID is coming across the border and it is getting spread in Texas? Clearly.
The moment that
that's what I assumed, because they're not testing.
No, they're not testing. They're not able to test. You're not able to test that many people that are coming across at the level that this administration wants them to come across. And if you've got any way that you can try to test and do something to test this amount of people that are coming over, this mass of humanity, that would be incredible to do that. And so yes, our numbers go up. Yes, our numbers have gone up in our jails. The moment I started arresting illegal aliens for criminal trespass, I experienced COVID in the jail immediately.
You know, it's very troubling what's going on. You know, yesterday I saw the story that the Biden administration is telling Navy SEALs that if they're not vaccinated, they're not going to be deployable. And now we see the border agents, and if they're not vaccinated, they can get fired. Same thing with healthcare staff. I mean, we're having a hard enough time getting workers on the job. We're going to be losing so many people because of these rules, and it doesn't even incorporate whether or not people had COVID. I mean, your border agents, the border agents on the ground may have had COVID, but that doesn't matter, even though the infection is 26 more immunity, apparently, according to doctors we've spoken on this program, than the actual vaccination.
Great point, Maria. If anyone took a look at what Border Patrol, the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol have been subjected to since January the 20th, it's unbelievable that he would then pull this type of mandate. It's almost beyond belief on the situations that the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol have been put through here, and now to be threatened with firing if they don't follow a mandate for vaccination. All the while having to deal every day with hundreds of thousands of people who are not being vaccinated, that are being brought into this country. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
So what do you want to say to the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas? Because I know that he continues to say that the border is closed. Jen Psaki said it yesterday as well.
Well, I see this as a credibility issue, Maria, and I think the American public has to see it as a credibility issue. Who's telling the truth here? It's obvious to the American public, or should be clearly obvious, that the border is not closed. It's not secure. It's far from that. And it's embarrassing to make a claim like that in the face of overwhelming evidence that the border is not secure. In a matter of national security, this is the man that's in charge of national security. And I'm going to add also that during the Obama administration, when he was the #2 man behind Jay Johnson, that the border looked very different. I think what we have today is a compromised Homeland Security director that's not taking care of our national security and has no intention with the Biden administration to secure our border in any way, form.
Interesting. So you think that it's the Biden administration, though, then? So then you say he's done an okay job, a good job under the President Obama early in that term, and now is compromised because President Obama gave an interview this week. He said the borders being open are unsustainable. He called for reform on immigration. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki responded to those comments. Listen to this.
Does President Biden agree with President Obama that open borders is unsustainable?
We don't have open borders. So, yes, he agrees.
It's amazing that she could continue to say this with a straight face. She says we don't have open borders. I mean, as if we're not watching 17,000 people under a bridge the other day, 200,000 people on the, at the border every month, and tens of thousands of gotaways.
It's beyond belief for the American public to be subjected to this and have our national border, our international border, with Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, subjected to this kind of conduct by this administration. It's embarrassing as a law enforcement professional, as Alejandro Mayorkas is in charge of Department of Homeland Security. That's one of the largest law enforcement agencies in the United States. He's directly responsible for protecting Americans at the highest level. At the highest level we have here. And so we have this this unbelievable position that they take, which lends to no credibility whatsoever. I think the man's been compromised.
Real quick, Sheriff, before you go, how many gotaways would you estimate there are every month? I'm talking about people who have been seen on surveillance cameras coming into the country, getting in, and then disappearing in the country. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what their intentions are, because if they wanted to actually become legal, they would get apprehended. But they didn't. They skirted getting apprehended and just came in, and they were seen on surveillance cameras, but they got away. How many would you say is that every month?
Maria, it's a numbering hundreds of thousands. And this is evidence. There's plenty of evidence about this, as each county in Texas records a record number of chases. Each county is having dead bodies. I had a dead body last week that was dumped on a transport, I'm sure, of human trafficking or smuggled individuals. So the gotaways, the people who are coming in are probably just as much as the ones who are walking up and saying, listen, I want to become an asylee or make application for asylee status here. So this is the other half of the problem that having a border vision like the Biden administration does. This is one of the issues that we deal with in Texas and these other states, which will soon be in other states here in the nation.
Hundreds of thousands of gotaways every month. This is extraordinary, and this will change our country significantly over time. Sheriff, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Sheriff A.J. Louderback joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.